Welcome to Event-Vods. Watch the full game from NLC Spring Playoffs 2025.
Versus Los Ratones, that's not going to be easy. And we walk into the Champion Select instantly, even before the time. This is beautiful. They really want to dish out the damage within the Rift. Salad, you told us, like, let's start the game. Jace is out. Azir is out as well. What is going to be the main focus? Because the patch has changed, so maybe the bans adapt as well.
So you still gotta remember that for Verdant, for example, it is hard to find those very direct bans into them, because whoever you want to ban against, they're going to have so many more champions that they will have no problem rotating into. But I still love the idea of removing Jace, for example, one of the very big champions for Terran, and the champion that is problematic for Baus on the top lane. Most likely Los Ratones would like to get rid of any lane bullies from the top lane just to make sure that Baus doesn't suffer. Okay, 2 out of 3, that's still nice, and then removing Victor from the mid lane as well, pretty much with a similar idea, especially now that the Azir for Nemesis, his most played champion display, is not available anymore.
Yeah, there are, I mean, technically 3, but I'll only bring up 2 champions that I'd like to highlight. We obviously mentioned the AP changes on this patch, but 2 champions that got relatively significant buffs and changes were Senna and Smolder. And those are 2 champions which I feel are pretty synonymous with Crowny and Reckless's not just name, but also playstyle. So I'm kind of wondering what the priority will be around those champions for Los Ratones and how they're going to handle those both. Senna obviously got more AD carry focused buffs with a slight support nerf, whereas Smolder just got flatly a bit more buffed. And Cho'Gath was the third one, who's also been incredibly overpowered with the Emacs.
We got to see it today. Yeah.
Yeah, with all of those buffs,
with T1,
still Varus. Yeah, with T1. The more things change, the more things stay the same. Still getting at that Varus first pick. And we will kind of wait with bated breath to see if this is going to be something like a Zinzao and an Ezreal here for Verdant, as a lot of these power picks still up and available with the way that some of those bans flew. Okay,
almost 1 out of 2. Zinzao most likely for Noodle, one of, again, his most preferred champions in the jungle. I like the Talia there for Senkax. Last times we talked about Verdant having Talia, it was mostly a pick, either a counter pick into the enemy or a pick away from the enemy's mid laner. But here I like it just by default, because Senkax is a player who is very responsive to what is happening on the map, especially on the bot side of the map or around the big objectives. And Talia allows him to relocate there very easily to join the fight.
Giving that priority to the duo. Yeah. Ooh.
Okay.
So far squishy, but a lot of damage. There you go.
Yeah.
Squishy, you say.
I actually quite like this, because now, as Los Ratones, right, you're putting faith in Nemesis champion pool, which I think is never a bad thing to do. And Verdant kind of have to pick between a solid, matchup into Sion, which there are very few of on the patch. You could go double AP solo lanes, go the Gwen. You could maybe go the Aatrox as Tyron. That would be like the comfort. But then you obviously lose out on the bot lane matchups, things like Ezreal for range. But if you go Ezreal, then you don't have a tank killer. You go Jhin, you also kind of don't have a tank killer either.
Yeah.
But it is going to be a little bit more about setup. So what now Verdant really need is, additional engage out of Obstinatus, which I'm sure he's not going to struggle to find with the way the bans currently lie. And then, something that's really going to change the game here from Tyron on, R4, I would expect.
How do you kill Sion?
In that sense, do you need to kill Sion? Or maybe there is a world in which Verdant could use Tyron and his love to be on the side lanes, or just a little bit away from the team, helping them out somewhere else on the map, and to give him a very good split pusher? It's just an idea, but we've seen Tyron already pull these ideas out, just having a lot of pressure somewhere on the other side of the map compared to where the rest of the team is, and that's maybe forcing Baus to also not be able to join the team.
We'll see. I mean, they've removed away Gwen, Los Ratones, so they kind of acknowledge that that would be one of the more frustrating champs to deal with.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's just Aatrox as that second ban. I feel like those are the 2 highest priority picks you could have gone for Los Ratones, and that's just going to be the follow-up. So, I mean, at what point, like, what direction do you really want to go? Like, do you want to blind support into Reckless, who's got, an abundance of, enchanter counter picks? Do you want to try and save top lane for a game-changing pick? Because, I mean, I feel like Cho'Gath, it's buffed, it's stronger on this patch. It's obviously a very good answer directly into Sion.
Sion, yeah.
You're going to need, effectively, just like a Go-Bar now, Obstinatus, and it's going to need to be long range. It can't be Rel, it can't be Alistar, it has to be Nautilus, or it has to be the Leona. Otherwise, I think they're really going to struggle to get fights going the way that they'd like to.
This is looking problematic in terms of what it can do to deal with a lot at the moment, and they're going to wrap it up with any sort of support, maybe even a Rakan to just go in and be happy and then fall back if needed. Ooh, the timer went down. Okay. Yeah, another bulky front line. Jin is not going to have a fun time on this match.
No, he's not. I feel like nobody on Verdant is going to have a fun time in this matchup whatsoever. This is probably going to be the Nautilus for Obstinatis. It's hard to see what else they're going into. But for now, Los Ratones are raising up much more problems for Verdant, because how do you cut through their front line? How do you deal with their engage apart from your Tilly and Xin? What exactly do you do with the Cho'Gath on the map? So many question marks here with this draft for Verdant. And usually Verdant are the team that we praise for their drafts.
True. I mean, I feel like a lot of this is going to start through the mid jungle for Syncox and Noodle. That's really where they're going to have to make a lot of their bread. There's Nautilus that felt pretty telegraphed in all fairness. And yeah, I would suspect they're going to have to really try and bring it to Velia and Nemesis. Maybe they've got an early game pathing plan ready. Noodle has been one of the junglers of all time in the NLC who's been willing to do really weird stuff like flash over walls to go from buff to buff. So
actually,
let's wait and see if that's what they've got going on, because for Los Ratones, it's very standard front to back, a little bit of pick, non-committal engage. Life feels really good. I feel like the onus is really on Verdant to try and get things going so that Syncox can be unlocked on the map and ready to go.
As it stands, final word just to get your prediction on who do you think is going to take game one. Salari, you start. I know you have a saying right now.
It has to be Los Ratones in this game. I am not seeing how Verdant are winning this game unless they're set super ahead in the early game, which is going to fully fall onto Noodle's shoulders, and that is a lot to ask from one person. So I think for Los Ratones, the win condition is just easier.
I like Verdant's lane matchups. I actually do have faith in the one-to-one champions, but I'm just concerned about how they're actually going to be able to get a snowball going to then put them in a positive position, right? In team fights to get prio, to be on objective first. That's my concern. I think Los Ratones have a much more easier time getting around the map and securing objectives in that regard.
Keep in mind, this is going to be the last matchup before we go into live in Copenhagen. So whoever wins, we'll move up into Leagues Disrupt. To stop this one, let's toss it to the casters. It's Initialize and Triple Link.
Thank you very much, Archer. We are now back here. I'm here with Trouble Link. The boys are back in town. It's such a pleasure to be back on cast with you. Every time I see you, I swear your background gets more and more full. That's the answer. Really, what you can't see is offside.
And what you can't hear
She's done it again! She's done it again!
It's classic. Okay, I just said that. I just spread them out and they took more space, but that's fine. Let's move into game number one. Here we go.
It's tradition. All right, well, coming into game one, Georgia. I was chatting about your background. We've got the meme out of the way. What is your take on what's going on in the Rift today? We've got ourselves Nefiri Ari for LR. That could get pretty spicy. On the other side, I'm looking at a lot of CC combos from Verdant, but maybe not necessarily the most consistent damage.
Yeah, I feel like for Los Ratones right here, they've got a pretty much a very well-rounded composition, I want to say. I wanted to see if Crowny was going to lock into the game with Comet, Halo Blades, or Lethal Temple that we're seeing more of the on-hit build onto Virus, but he's playing for pure lane domination, playing against a Jhin lane, right? What I'm very worried about Verdant is that they don't necessarily have a designated tank killer. So if Baus really does snowball, and he really has changed and builds any remnants of tank items, it'd be really hard to kill him. Looking at the longsword, I take everything I said back.
Yeah, of course, he's going damage early. It is Baus on the Scion. Is he ever really going tank on that champion? Really?
Man, hell no. It's gonna be action mark first, a second item or something.
I'm fairly certain someone would have to come and restrain him and buy his items for him for that to happen.
You know what? There were a couple of conversations with Deirdre where he's like, he's in drop and he's like, you're going tank, right, Bowsy? You're going tank here, right? And he's like, yeah, boss, I'm going tank. And then he just goes in game and builds like AP or
it's not
on the champion, right? It's not happening. You can't tame him.
It's the way he is. And at that point, I suppose there has to be a bit of a question about where we're at here. Because obviously Los Ratones are in fact in the lower bracket. Not where we were necessarily expecting them to be. Necessarily, I'll take that out, we were not expecting them to be in the lower bracket. They are the EMEA Masters champions. They came in with this incredible roster that did so well in spring, did so well for the regular season, and then dropped down to Nord as they kind of got wrecked. Not to put too fine a point on it. It was a really good series for them, as absolutely right. Story time will have to wait. Shigenari flashing away, but Reckless waiting here as down comes the level 3 Nefiri. Hot dogs for dinner. And Shigenari is feeling a little overfull and will die for first blood to the dog in the jungle.
Right, stories aside as well, we're going to catch them because they're actually very important here for the rest of the game and for the rest of the tournament as well. And the lives of both of these teams. Valia with a very nice invade. Takes the blue buff, takes the gromp, and then wraps around. Shigenari and Obstinatus have absolutely no idea. Because even though they were deep woods, Valia managed to actually wrap around them as Mouse will die once for now. On the top side of the map, the solo bolo coming through from Tayron. Now, Noodle is going to respond with...
oh boy.
Is he going to do it? Okay.
Phew. Would have been a little bold with everyone knowing where he was.
2022, I saw him flash the pit so many times just to get where he needs to be on time. I wasn't even going to be surprised if he did that just to get the skull crown.
He tried very hard to drag Veneer through a decent playoff run towards the end of that split. Things like his Shin Zhao, despite the historical win rate on it for him not being fantastic, his eye test has always been pretty great, trying even when teams have struggled a little bit. He's always had a way of making that champion look very dangerous. And right now, I know we've had this conversation before, Shin Zhao feels like probably the most potent early game skirmisher coming out of the jungle.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Looking about skirmish, I think the skirmish is up top lane. Noodle tried to take the double scuttle coming through from Noodle right here. Mouse, that's a flash.
To try and punish this, eviscerating forward is Velia. Tayron going to be a little late. Nemesis flashing over here. Forced to flash out of those Jin Zhao. Charm onto Tayron, who is going to get hit up by that. Rupture his Nemesis for a second or two, but they can keep on hunting. Call of the Pipe buys a bit of time. Another eviscerate, and the Dark Daggers keep on going through. And Nemesis gets another loss. Ratones off to the races. At least Verdant did get a kill somewhere else, of course, because Tayron managed to pick up Bousy.
Yeah, I feel like Tayron got a little bit baited right there. He had no mana on the Cho'Gath. He walked up. Noodle could have very easily just flashed the wall, which actually he did, and he was safe in the tower. So Tayron didn't actually have to overextend right there. Very nice charm, of course, landed from Nemesis. And just to capitalize onto the overstep right there from the Cho'Gath. And I just want to reiterate and remind everyone, because you started a very, very lovely story right there. Los Ratones were never imagined to be on that lower bracket and fighting for their lives right now. However, right here, with one win, they solidify themselves in the LAN in Copenhagen on that lower bracket final versus Radisak that's waiting for them, right? Or for Verdant. And for Verdant, it's an even bigger feat if they manage to do that, like beating Los Ratones. Can we remind everyone that they both started in the same group, and we thought Verdant was going to be that one team that really does challenge Los Ratones. In the best of ones, it didn't seem to be the case. Now, this is the actual real challenge. You have at least 3 games to prove that you can.
It's not exactly like that. Roster doesn't have its own amount of experience. Shigenari, of course, been to things like Worlds and stuff with the likes of, I want to say it was Gambit way back in the day. And of course, the likes of Senkux was at one point on teams like Splice, which you may remember from over in NLC. That lineage now has become more of a star koi over the years in the LEC, but there's some players who certainly had a fair amount of experience there as well. And Noodle, NLC vet, will be looking to help push Verdant that little step further. But of course, to get there, they have to do a little bit of giant slaying. Whilst Ratones are looking to make sure they recover well from that upper bracket humbling they ended up receiving. Hence the run of affairs as Bousy gets ignited, and that's just a kill to Shigenari. Going down again, it is the Bouse way on the side, but all the same, getting a kill onto the Jhin early, got to feel pretty good for Verdant nonetheless.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. If that was a Jhin getting a kill onto Sion, I'm like, yeah, okay, but Sion is really scaling. He's just gonna have like his Frozen Hearts, his Randuins, like anything with armor, just point click it in the shop and buy it on Sion, and you'll be fine against Xin Zhao and against the Jhin. However, right here, of course, Bouse is going more with a bruiser type of build, which means that the Jhin will be able to hurt him much easier than if he was a full tank Sion. So getting Shigenari early game kills is going to be very, very beneficial for the side of Verdant.
Big time, especially as we're looking probably to go towards that Collector Infinity Edge build, which has been the Jhin staple right now. If you want to start hurting those champions with a little bit more HP, you want to get to that third item where things like the Lord Dominic's Regards can come on in. But hey, welcome to the life of an AD carry. you do need a few items to your name. Still, early game as it stands, pretty even so far. A couple hundred gold in the advantage of Lost Ratones, but that's about it. I'll note they also managed to take the early dragon. Velia did that at the level 4, so they've got that going for them too.
Yeah, and there's a 3 versus 3 forming over on the top side as Crowny.
Nice. The bait comes on through. Crowny a little bit greedy with the passing. Trying to throw down the curtain call and don't hit the shots they were aiming for. In comes Bowser's Senkux. Flashes out of the way of the unstoppable onslaught, who turns up topside, and some summoners blown, but no one dies.
That's actually pretty huge, though. Crowny is the core damage right now for the side of Los Ratones, so losing both summoners right before the Void Grubs fight right here could end up being very deadly for the Varus. But as you can see right here, Los Ratones is sort of sandwiching in towards the Void Grubs. The TP is going to come through, though, from Tayron.
Hook lands. That's Baus getting rooted by the deadly first. Rekka's trying to buy some time. Headbutts Obstinatus into the middle of the pit. Taerong now teleports in himself. Looking to play this out. Can start to play around the grubs. Maybe he can smite one away. Looking to get some kills back. They've already nabbed one of the grubs. Have lost returns. They get the feats of warfare as well. As of course Crowny picks up a kill. Charm into the knockup. Into the dead Cho'Gath. Not looking so much like a void monster as a tutorial boss.
Yeah, I feel like Los Ratones were very, very prepared for these Void Grubs, because even though the Varus lost both summoners, no one was actually really ready to fight this. They've actually instantly sandwiched themselves. Thank you very much for the pose right there to show that as well. Between all 5 Los Ratones members, and then the TP came through from Tayron, didn't have much mana, so Verdant a little bit dizzy about that neutral objective, and Los Ratones absolutely capitalized on that. About 1,500 gold lead right here, and majority of the lead is kind of like spread throughout the map as we're looking at the replay one more time. Oh, no. Jokes. Oh, no. We're back. Okay.
Let's have a look.
The replay. Okay, so Obstinatus is a little bit too deep, and as you can see, Shikanari is sort of zoned up on the top side, trying to keep Crowny out. And Obstinatus is too far in, but there's no full damage. Tayron TPZ, not a lot of mana. Sentex stuck in the bottom side of the map, so you can see that Verdant was pretty much spread too thin around that river, and Los Ratones just capitalized on the one member that was overextended.
And really good positioning from Reckless on that Alistair. Gets the headbutt back, puts his Obstinatus in an awful position. Baus now is somehow very deep, and I suspect he will be going down here. Has got a flash. Where is he going? Of course he's going to the wave. He's heading for the farm. He'll get knocked up, but he'll be able to clear out the wave at the very least. Baus will never change, will he? Gets feasted, so there's some stacks in the inventory of Tayron, but there you go.
I just want to reiterate to everyone, he flashed with this. He deliberately flashed to get those creeps. It's fair enough.
Yeah.
It's fair enough. You know what? I do see some defensive MR in his inventory.
And a Barbies.
I mean, it looks like he's changed. That looks like a defensive first item.
I bought Swifties. That's not defensive boots. He's not really changed, has he? I mean, it's only partly changed.
Where'd the Barbies go?
That's a good question. Did he sell it? Did he sell it for Swifties? He sold Barbies. I think he was dead at the time, so I'm assuming he was just debating what item to buy. He didn't just buy it and then sell it. So in fairness, I suspect.
What? When you're faster, you can get to the wave faster as well. I mean, I think Swifties are super high value right here because both Jhin and Talia play from a pretty high distance as well. So they do help you somehow close down that distance. At the end of the day, Baus is going to be more of a nuisance in the team fights for Verdant than anything else. Trying to protect pretty much anyone between Crowny and the in-betweens, which is like Velia and Nemesis trying to make plays as a mid-jungle duo.
Yeah. Well, we'll need to keep our eyes on that one, especially as managing to stay even somehow, just slightly ahead of this Cho'Gath. In spite of the usually hyper-aggressive play pattern we see from him, a little rupture comes on through in the Broken Covenant Cho'Gath, which still is one of the coolest skins in League. I just love the city he creates when he presses Q. It's pretty awesome. Fight around the dragon, though, so musing about skins may have to wait a second as everyone's trying to fight for vision in the banana bush. Velia will go untargetable for a second. Headbutt pulverized from Reckless. Brings down Obstinatus, has a heat-seeking engage on that other support. Noodle gonna try and find a moment, does not get to Crescent God anywhere near in time to keep himself alive. A knock up onto the Cho'Gath, and again, the monster falls. Lost Ratones have been clinical in these team fights.
Yeah, I feel Verdant are really weighing the situation when they're trying to fight for those neutral objectives. There's actually no wards, there's no vision, there's no formation for them to try and play those fights. Usually when you're looking at Talia's, you're looking at a wall coming in first, you isolate some members, then you kill some others. It's more about the zoning that you can create with things like the Jhin ult and the Talia. But right here, it's just Obstinatus trying to clear the way to get inside this river. The waves have been pushed. Elara there first, and they're just engaging him as a 5-man.
He had a lot of value there, for sure, and then they managed to turn this around. Nemesis already got so many stacks, and Noodle knows there's no way out, so tries to get something. But look where the carries are. Senkux and Shigenari are miles away, not able to get involved, and Reckless, again, with that snap engage. He has been so good at splitting these team fights up, and this is on an engaged champion. That's not an enchanter, it's not something that's kind of backline, which we've often said has been his staple, and the engage options have often not really been there in the draft. Proving us all a little wrong here with a fantastic Alistair game so far.
Absolutely. I think everyone is having a pretty good game from the set of Los Ratones. 2-0-5, Relia as well. Great early game invade that gave them that first kill onto Shigenari. And I feel like we haven't necessarily mentioned it too much because it hasn't blown up that much, but we felt like Shigenari and Crowny were going to be the two big carries, respectively, for their teams, particularly for the side of Verdant. I feel like Shigenari had to lift a lot of weight in the damage department for them. He has more than 30% of his team's entire damage distribution, and that's throughout the entirety of playoffs, right? So it's within series that they've dominated and within series that were hard for them. Obstinatus right here. Oh, in No Man's Land. Oh, boy. Well.
Sometimes this happens on Nautiluses. When you start falling behind, you end up dying as you attempt to face it because you're not really that tanky unless you get Aftershock. We'll try and turn this around onto Velia, who reactivates his Call of the Pack. Sorry, is it Call of the Pack? That's the W. What's the R button again? I'm having a moment. It'll have to wait as I muse on ability names later. Nemesis in a 1v1 with Sankux. Noodle coming down as well, but Nemesis just gets to press R a few times and run away.
Yeah, Noodle is around. Does have one more dash. He wants to use that. He'll get the charm. He should be able to walk out here.
Managing the cooldown super well. That's really well managed. And it's Hound's Pursuit is the R button. Took me a second to remember as Noodle doesn't get hit by the second charm, but does get to interrupt Nemesis reset just a little. Of course, there's Hex Gates going on, so I don't know how quickly and how long they can stick around. Velia are at 2/3 HP, but again, with the Dark and Dice, going to be a healing. Charm onto Obstinatus. As Nemesis has decided to stick around, Reckless and Crowny now here, as is Senkux. They really want to potentially contest this. Noodle's gone very deep, presses the R button, in comes the depth charge, but it was a little bold to throw down those ultimates. Flash for the charm, flash in response, keeps at least Obstinatus alive. TPs, I hear, beginning to fly on down towards his pulse. Obstinatus took the wall! Over the wall they're going regardless, but it's a double pulverized knockup. They'll bring down Crowny. Senkux still firing over the wall. Tayron is here as well, and I think Los Ratones may have bitten off a little more than they can actually chew. Remember, Nemesis, no ult, gets feasted, goes down as well. And now Velia in danger in a 1 versus 4. Verdant have found a lot. You can call the back all you want. No one's on the other end of the phone. And a shutdown goes the way of Senkux as Verdant find a huge fight in the bot side.
Incredibly great awareness from the side of Verdant. They actually knew that Velia had him back. He was half HP. And then Nemesis had to use everything to get away from Senkux. So it all stemmed from Senkux starting a 1 versus 1, versus Nemesis, chases him out, and then as you can see, Obstinatus gets there, Noodle stays around. They know that they don't have the tools to chase because Nemesis does not have the ultimate, so they do use their strengths versus Los Ratones right here. They do TP Tayron from the tops of the map as well. If you look on your minimaps from that mid lane coming down, you also have Shigenari slowly walking on the Jhin as well, having that curtain call too. I find this was a fantastic opportunity for Verdant. You see the trigger finger from the side of Los Ratones. Is Baus going to TP? He had TP this entire time. Didn't choose to use it. TP's way late just to grab the creeps that are underneath that tower. It just leaves him with so many question marks, right? Because what if that Sion had actually TP'd and that was a proper 5 versus 5?
I genuinely doubted that play at the beginning when you saw Noodle blow his ult early, Obstinatus hooked the wall, you're going, oh boy, this is going to be a mess. And then you remember, actually, there is no ult on the Ahri. There is no ult on the Neferi, there you go, that's the name of that champion. Took me, so I was going to call it a Nemesis, and I was like, no, that's the name of the player. And actually, they played that really well. Has a great curtain call angle, had a great teleport, and you can't ask for too much better. That puts Verdant right back in contention. They're still down 2,000 odd gold, though. And Lost Returns look like they want to play around this as Reckless. Forced to ult and back away. Turn onto the hook lands and a charm in turn, but here comes the Weaver's Wall. And Lost Ratones, these last few plays have not been fantastic. A chunk on Develio who eviscerates away. Baus is also now ulted on in. They get the knockup with the multi-man headbutt. Pulv, health bars are low, and actually Baus can start autoing. I take it all back. There's the Hound's Pursuit, and Tayron can do what he wants, can't get in range to get the feast down. The health bar wasn't executable. Shigenari cleanses and begins to run away, hit with that Q, and Baus won't chase for him more, but actually good counter punch from Lost Ratones after the start of the fight. Got a little ugly.
I feel like for Verdant, this was a we were winning until we weren't. They just overextended a little bit too much. You can see how great it is when they keep their distance and they can use their tools to catch Los Ratones off guard, to punish them with the CC that they do possess, and especially when you have so many knockups on the side of Verdant. No amount of, I keep forgetting the word. No amount of tenacity, there you go, I found it, is going to negate the amount of knockups, right? The Cho'Gath, the Thalia, the Nautilus, they've got really potent CC if they can change together. And they showed us at the very beginning of this fight why it's so strong. So let's watch this one more time. Reckless even has to flash away. State of Corruption will land, and then that's where they catch Nemesis. Look at him. He doesn't even have time to react. She went from knockup to knockup, but then Senkax walks a little too far forward. Obstinate to spoke. Noodle goes back in with super low HP, so even though he uses the ult, Faust is already on top of him, and Shiganari just doesn't get that front line to sit there and use that curtain call, use his auto attacks. Verdant did something great, and then they just overextended, and Los Ratones took advantage of it.
I mean, for a moment there, looked like Shiganari was playing Jax, because that was a counter-strike angle there. Man was getting collaterals the entire fight. Do you see how many multi-man Qs he got straight through everyone at the back end of that fight? Nasty stuff from the Varus. Nemesis, though, now looking for an ult, following up with this Ari, and Senkox flashes the charm, but where is he going? Over the wall comes Dobsonata's multi-man dredge line. And Depth Charge, I apologize, that's the name of the ultimate. Velia trying to hop away, will get knocked up by the 3 Talon Strike, and Lost Ratones have gone a little deep. They'll change the Corruption, try to turn this around. It does feel like those counterpunches still being very dangerous. Ends up being a 1-for-none in favor of Verdant as they blow a few summoners to come and save their mid laner's life.
Yeah, that's a flash down on Senkax, but they end up trading for a kill onto Velia, so it's definitely worth it. I'm very confused on the way that Los Ratones are playing right now, because I'm not very used to that aggression without necessarily a neutral objective being on their side, or at least something else being taken on the other side of the map. And right here, Verdant, they're going to capitalize on the fact that there's no smite on the side of Los Ratones. They'll take that Rift Herald, and slowly but surely, I feel like Verdant are starting to realize how their composition is supposed to work. This is not your typical front to back as Shiganari. It's a little bit too far forward, might have to blow his splash.
Noodles around. Big chunk, though, onto Shiganari nonetheless. Will Deadly flourish briefly and get a silver lining bit of CC. But Nemesis, look at the angle. The charm is phenomenal. And Crowny knocks down what Nemesis sets up. Reckless goes forward, does get knocked up here. Has to flash away to Noodle. As Baus looks for the lane gank by driving straight down mid lane. Nemesis still got the ult to run with for a second or two more. Can look for a charm angle. Lands it around the minions onto that Cho'Gath, who's a lot tanky now than he once was. But is he tanky enough to survive? Is for the moment. Baus throws up the Soul Furnace. You'll over the wall goes Velia. Gets stunned but briefly. But chased onto Obstinata's. It's a double for Crowny. Gets a reset on the Hound's pursuit. Velia will go and target the wall with the call of the pack. Sends those dogs straight after Noodle, who might be turning into dinner like his namesake. Gets in trouble though as he throws down the Crescent Guard, does pick off the Bias as he tries to get a few more autos down as a zombie. And the Cranberries have the right of it. What's in his head going this deep? The Dark Daggers land! And Nemesis helps get another with the very tip of the Q. Wait, curtains are called, and how many shots can they land? What's the dance? She's like, Cranny nearly flashed into that bullet. But it all pulls away, and Lost Ratones in the end come out on top. But my days, they have been willing to get down and dirty with the best of them.
I mean, hey, you get away with the Help Us blinking, who cares? You still got the kills. Los Ratones got out alive, and they outplayed Verdant fantastically in this team fight. They managed to get the 2 towers over in the mid lane as well. So they used Baus as basically a Maokai or an Oracle to try and zone away Verdant. Verdant weren't actually following up with this one, so they actually got caught underneath their own towers, and Los Ratones picked them up one by one as Nemesis has found himself another target.
He has so much ability. Haste's ult is basically on no cooldown. Keeps chasing, gets another for Crowny, who's now going to his 9th kill of the game. Charm just wide as Nemesis will press the R button on the slightest provocation. And once again finds a pick onto this poor Nautilus, who's 0-6 and 6 right now. Let's have a look at this replay where we're going to have to say 0-7 instead to Verdant, who couldn't quite defend these turrets.
Yeah, I feel like that was a great ult by Baus right there, because as the first tower was going down, just dived a little bit too deep, tried to zone away Verdant, which was great. And then when this charm lands, look how much CC they layer onto the Cho'Gath. And this is a very damn tanky Cho'Gath. They still managed to bring him down. And you connect all onto the Nautilus, take this one down as well. What is happening? The replay is down in the bottom left as we're taking a dive straight onto the mid lane tower.
Well, Herald was taken by Verdant, so they'll charge it through mid lane and get a double charge off, which is nice for them. As the cacophony stops just briefly. And we'll turn instead to look at things like Hextech Dragon. which will be spawning in relatively short order. Charge now onto Shiganari, who was kind of split off from his team, trying to back away from the Baus. Got a lot of damage with this Titanic Hydra. Gets knocked up by the Rupture. Will be in feast range shortly. And Tehran will indeed press the R button, and Baus's zombie runs at a few people and tries to get a few more love taps down. No pun to Misfortune's kit required.
Yeah, top right though, 17 seconds until next. Dragon and Verdant are very, very quickly trying to reset right there. Obstinatus.
Oh,
Mate,
boy.
you're on the wrong side of the moon.
Oh, boy.
And this is going to be a 1-for-1. So full versus full for this Dragon. The Dragon spawning already. Verdant did not have the time to reset and get a bit of vision into this river. So it's going to be a TP from Tehran coming through. And let's see if Senkax not just to wall in, try and get something from that 4v4.
Would be a 4v4 because of course Baus is down, but then instead is the sole 4 lost Ratones. They get the full job with 4 dragons in a row at 23 minutes. Now turning around by that extra lightning to their name. And somewhere out there, there's a God of Thunder or two who are approving. And this is Nemesis into the backside. Multi-man slow as the lightning begins to ground itself in the skulls of Verdant. Trying to get the shutdown onto Shikanari. But Nemesis manages to bring that down in a 1-for-1. Maybe not the cleanest they'd like, actually. Asenko's running away from Velia. Knockup now onto that dog who manages to eviscerate away to safety. Ends up being a 2-for-2, so not as clean as Lost Ratones were hoping as they went diving with their newly gained Hex Soul and got a little bit too greedy with their newfound power.
Yeah, at the end of the day, though, they do end up getting the soul. So that's all they went for. They might have overextended just a little bit right there, but not having your sign in the front line. You gotta get a little bit creative. And Nemesis and Velia, they take that mid-jungle power duo of Ari and Afiri, and they ended up diving into that backline. And this is what's very scary between the two compositions, right? Because they both have 2 big walls in front of both of their carries, the Sion and the Cho'Gath, respectively. But the thing is that Ari and Nafiri do not care about your front line. They can find creative ways, creative flanks to get into that backline and get into contact with Shikanari and with Senkax, right? Whilst on the other side for Verdant, they kind of have to play more of an isolating game with the walls, with the knockups coming through to try and kill and chip away each and every single champion from the side of Los Ratones one by one.
They've got a lot of CC, and that's great, but the moment it's down, you're seeing people then return the play afterwards. The likes of Nemesis, Velia, Reckless have been really good at staggering those engages, buying some of those key cooldowns like the Unraveled Earth, which does make those dashes a little bit more problematic. And now, of course, we're at a point where Lost Ratones are 6,000 gold ahead, sold to their name. Much of the map is theirs to wander around as they so please, and we've often criticized LR for being a little slow, a little inactive in the early games, a bit messy. It's the mid games where the macro comes out where you start to see them really begin to shine. But this game, they have been so aggressive, and largely it's been pretty successful. LPL-esque, if I dare say, at its finest.
That is true. They have been actually trying to play for the kills. And I mean, like, the mid-jungle duo really speaks for itself, right?
Yeah.
Nafiri and Ari really want to fight, get ahead in the early game, trying to get the Nafiri fed with all those kills as Reckless. It's going to headbutt onto Obstinatus as Obstinatus cues the wall. And I feel like right here for Verdant, this will be their biggest test as they try to get some vision towards that Baron pit.
Quite deep for the Baus. I think he might be in trouble. Gets knocked up, flashes away. Curtains are called. Tehran, they're taking some big damage back. Down to about 10% HP, but over the wall goes Nemesis. Charmer, a key member of Noodle, who now Crescent Guards, but it might be a little too little and a little too late. Down with 3rd HP. Charmer, the Nemesis stunned up. It's not a charm, but it feels like it. That Deadly Flourish was the lucky charm that Verdant needed. Pick off on the mid laner. Potentially a critical one as things like Baron are up, even if the Atakan has already fallen.
Great pick by Senkax right there. The rocks into the W to catch Nemesis, and then the root coming through from the Ginas. Velia is starting this Baron up. 30 seconds for Nemesis. Does have the TP to get in. But that is just from Velia to try and...
He's gone.
Well... Oh.
Or not. There's the
Never mind.
bleed. Gets it in the end. And unfortunate. Noodle can't quite escape as the Dark and Daggers do their work. Hop over the wall away from the Rupture. And suddenly what felt like a moment where Verdant might be able to find something is quickly turned back into an even state of affairs. And unfortunately for Verdant, they don't have a smite up. And guess what's in front of them, Georgia? It's Baron.
Absolutely. They do not have a smite, but they have something that is quite equivalent to one. They've got a Cho'Gath around with a feast, so this can get pretty scary if Cho'Gath gets anywhere near the pit. But as you can see right here, Lost Ratones, particularly Baus and Reckless, have made it their life's mission to not let this Cho'Gath anywhere near the pit.
Nemesis is back in TP'd in. Shiganari looking for an angle. They are doing their very best to keep the Cho'Gath away. Root, though, onto Nemesis begins to ult on out. Reckless will get the Pulverize onto Obstinatus. And there is Baron secured. You asked them to keep the Cho'Gath out the pit, and Lost Returns held the mission statement. And we'll even get a bonus to Lear at the end of it all.
Yeah, I'm not sure how Senkax ended up there. I think they were just trying to flank around to get any vision onto the pit as Theron has to flash the wall. It's pretty Los Ratones dominant right here. Let's be honest, Obstinatus has his Hex Flash away from that bush. And there's going to be a push towards the top side of the map for Los Ratones. They've got the Baron, they've got 5 members, and they're looking for the first inhibitor towers.
In comes the Hound's pursuit, and Nautilus finds his diving suit full of a lot of holes. Tehran now in danger, tries to find some value, can't quite get a kill with that Feast. Value low, but I don't think he cares all that much. The curtain's being called, but unfortunately for Jin, I think it's his team that'll be forced to take the bow. The spell shield tanks the 4th bullet, and Shigenari suddenly wishing he could counter 5.
Ooh, plain textbook right here from Los Ratones. Taking that mid lane inhibitor tower and the inhibitor as well. I mean, that's pretty good, right? You back off, you take your money, put it in your pocket, make it into items, and then just guarantee yourself a pretty clean game overall from the head of Los Ratones. 11,000 gold in the lead right now. And I think this is pretty much as done as can be. Verdant should technically be going back to the drawing board and thinking of what they're going to be playing to what I'm assuming is going to be a blue side for them. Thanks.
Does feel that way, doesn't it? The Infinity Edge is done for Shigenari, and that's nice. The Cho'Gath is still managing to get a few items, but still nearly 5k down, despite some of the silliness early on. About 100 CS, 4 off. Well, actually, I can't count 6 off that. The Flame Horizon near enough reached. Close enough for me to count, even if it's not quite official, but that's still a very impressive feat, and the gold leads are pretty monumental wherever you care to look. And Verdant, with 14 seconds on the Elder Dragon, have got to try and find a way into this river without getting picked off on the way, and that's going to be no easy feat. All the while, look where Baus and Crowley are. They're in the base getting the final inhibitor.
Yeah, I think they're going to be threatening to actually end the game, because if you look on the top side of the map, there is already a wave running into the base. So Verdant right here, not only are they running back to the base, but now they're also surrounded.
Obstinatus going to get jumped on. There's the headbutt. The pulverize gun a little deep for this one, but Reckless can make himself very tanky with the press of an R button, and his will is very unbreakable, as is his body. Unfortunately, on the other side, Verdant look mighty breakable indeed, and LR take him over an E and snap him in half. Thrown off the Hell in a Cell through the announcer stairs, 16 feet or whatever the meme is. It has been a shellacking, a bloodbath. What is it, 44 kills in under 30 minutes. Los Ratones came here to play. They want to go to Denmark and they want to do it fast. They'll do game 1 at the very least in style.